Hi everyone, 2021 Kawasaki KX250F. The steering's getting a little bit sticky and a little bit crusty. It's time to change those steering stem bearings. Let's do it. It's a good idea to wedge something between your brake pads to prevent them from closing up on you. It can be difficult to pry them back open if they do. Anything about as thick as the front rotor will work. Make a note of the position of your front forks and the triple clamps. These KYB forks have grooves to help you out. If your forks don't have grooves or marks, add your own with a Sharpie. The bottom bearing was in far worse condition than the top bearing, and that's typical since the bottom bearing takes the brunt of the abuse. The rollers were rusty and falling out. Whatever grease used to be in there was long gone. Water, of course, is the reason these bearings rusted. If you use a pressure washer when washing your bike, don't spray it directly into the bearings. Typically, if you're changing the bearings, you should also change the races as well. There's a race here at the top of the steering tube and one at the bottom. This top race is in good condition with no grooves, rust, or pitting, so we're going to reuse it. Removing these races is a very difficult task, even when you have a race removal tool. The bottom race has a little bit of pitting, but I think we could clean it up with a Dremel and a Brillo wheel and get another season or two out of it. Because of the shape of the inside of the steering tube, it's impossible to fit a screwdriver down the tube and whack the race out. You'll need a race removal tool. Even with the race removal tool, you might not be able to hammer the race out. In this case, you'll either need to take the bike into a shop that has a pneumatic puller, or you'll have to cut the race out using whatever tools you have at your disposal. Remove the bearing cage and rollers by carefully knocking them off with a hammer. You could also try cutting the cage off with some metal snips. After the cage and rollers break away, you'll be left with the inner bearing ring stuck on the steering stem. This sucker is press fit on, and removing it will be the most difficult part of the job. It's breaking. Place a flat-edged tool against the lip of the ring and give it some healthy whacks to try to drive it up the steering stem. There's probably a less than 5% chance of this actually working. Applying some heat to the ring will allow it to expand some. Whack it again and hope to get lucky. Try fitting it in a vise. Heat it. Whack it some more. Any luck? Well, in my case, most of the lip shattered off, so I had to resort to using a Dremel and a cutoff wheel to burn through the ring. I tried to be careful, but I ended up putting a small groove in the steering stem. Not the end of the world, though. Once I had a groove cut about halfway through the ring, I was able to get it moving. Finally. I'm going to be using this Tusk steering bearing kit. It comes with 2 bearings, 2 races, and 2 seals. The bottom bearing is just slightly larger than the top bearing. Now, we won't actually be using these races because the races in the steering stem are in pretty good condition, plus they're really difficult to remove, so we won't be needing these. The trick to getting the new bearings on the stem is to put the stem and triple trees in the freezer for no less than an hour. This will cause the stem to shrink. Apply heat to the bottom bearing. This will cause it to expand. If everything goes as planned, the bearing should drop all the way down the steering stem. If it doesn't go all the way down, you could try to tap it down, but be careful that you don't bend or dent the bearing. Stuff as much grease as you can into the bearing. Really try to work it into each and every roller. Since the top of the bearing does not require heat or anything special to get it on the stem, you can pack it with grease before you put it on. At this point, you're basically just putting everything back together. If you made it this far, everything should be pretty easy and straightforward from here on out. Just make sure you route your brake and clutch cables correctly before fitting your forks back into the triple clamps. Also, be sure to torque things down to the specifications provided in this video. All the specifications I provide come from the service manual. Remember to get all your lines in the right position before fitting your fork tubes back in the triple clamps. The throttle cables, front brake line, and clutch line all go over the top and in front of the triple clamp. The various electronic wires should be routed and zip tied in such a way that they don't impede the steering. everything is put back together, take your bike out on a smooth flat surface and test the steering and brakes. Make sure your hoses and wires are not interfering with the forks or bars. And that's it. Your bike's steering should now be as smooth as butter. Thanks for watching, everyone.